Coach TJ James and Alexis Andrews Peppers are this week's guests on the Grace Effect with Coach Pamela Hankins. This Juneteenth special edition, we will discuss the relationship between freedom and legacy. Dear Grace Carriers, listen, our Bible-based podcast always stresses that communication is the key to loving yourself as well as others and walking in purpose. The show starts now. Hey, dear Grace Carriers, it is your girl, Coach Pamela Hankins, and thank you for joining me today for this Juneteenth special edition of the Grace Effect with Coach Pamela Hankins. Listen, let me tell you, my two guests that I'm about to bring on the stage are some very strong, dynamic women, and I know just them personally how Juneteenth resonates so well with them. And let me tell you, it was like a no-brainer to take and invite these two young, powerful women to discuss Juneteenth, right? Freedom and legacy. And so my first guest that I'm going to bring to the stage, I'm just going to go ahead and read her bio. And listen, don't judge me because I'm reading off my phone. But Alexis Andrews Peppers, right? This dynamic young lady is a seasoned financial service leader with 16 years of experience. She is known for her commitment of service to operational excellence and community impact. In 2023, she expanded her entrepreneurial footprint by launching her own business, Personally For You by Lex, a custom t-shirt and apparel brand that blends creativity with personal storytelling. And she is now preparing to open the 1117 Cellars, her own boutique winery. Did you hear that? Her own boutique winery. Come on, Lex, come through. I'm ready for my bottle. Yes. And will set to launch in 2 years, where she will merge craftsmanship, culture, and connection with a signature wine experience. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring to the stage Alexis Peppers. And
Hello.
hey, Lex, how's it going?
Good.
Good. So listen, you will be in great company. So I want to bring my next guest to the stage. And then once I have them both on the stage, I'm just going to ask them to go ahead and tell a little bit more about themselves. And then from there, we are going to jump into this special edition of the Grace Effect with Coach Pamela Hankins, this Juneteenth special edition. Now, this young lady here, let me tell you, in my time of getting acquainted with her, she is multi-talented. Let me tell you, I definitely appreciate her a whole lot. And she is a transformational coach. She has her own coaching business, which is called Wholeness Without the Hustle. Now, that in itself is a name by itself. She has worked in the manufacturing industry for several years and has a very wonderful dynamic story that she's going to share with us later in reference to her aunt, Capitola Dunn, who was named an inaugural for the OUS Tuscaloosa Aspire Award recipient. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring to you to the stage Coach TJ James. Well, I think I'm bringing her to the stage. And there she is.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, ladies. Welcome to the Grace Effect with Coach Pamela Hankins, where we may experience some technical difficulties. But guess what? It is all good. So, with that being said, listen, Alexis, I'll start with you. Just tell the people a little bit more about yourself. And then after that, then just pass it off to Coach TJ.
Okay. So, as Pam shared in my intro, um, I am finance background. I've done a lot within the fraud area at the bank. And over the last couple years, I was looking at into what would my legacy be beyond just working.
Mm-hmm.
So I started the idea of launching my own winery because we all love a good glass of wine, but there's not many African Americans in that industry where you own the land, production, and everything. So that is the concept that I'm going with. We bought a few acres of land out in Monroe. So anyone in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, just look out for 1117 sellers. Um, Other than that, I'm always willing to give back to the community and understand the importance of sharing our stories to keep our history valid, alive, and authentic. Um, and that's why I'm here today. And Coach TJ, you can take it.
Great. So I don't do wine, but I definitely know people who will support you. So I'm Coach TJ. I have spent 35 years in manufacturing, building pretty much anything a human can ride on, as well as medical, and now in the nuclear industry. I had started my entrepreneurship journey maybe 10 years ago. I owned my own boutique. And then I've been an author and I'm getting ready to release a couple new books. But most importantly, I'm finally walking into my calling, and my friends and people who work with me call me the purpose pusher. And so I'm excited about today and even connecting with both of you all. I believe people come into your lives for a reason, lifetime, seasons, purposes, and a lesson. So I'm going to glean from both of you all and this season, and excited about celebrating our Juneteenth edition today.
Great. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for that, and for again for taking the time out of your busy schedules. Because listen, we could have all been sleeping in, enjoying
Yes.
some needed rest, but yet you guys decided to join me here today. And thank you, Tanya Patterson, who is in the audience, who joined us today. But before we get into our questions that I have for you, I just want to ensure that we can pay a couple of bills. And so, with that, I'm going to go to a quick commercial.
Real women, real transformation, lasting impact.
This journey changed my life.
Discover your faith, purpose, and renewal.
Join us today.
Yes.
You're on mute, Pam.
Okay. Thank you. Do join us October 2nd and 3rd in the lovely Massanutten Resort for Week 40 retreat. You don't want to miss it. You could find the Week 40 retreat at www.phankins.com/Week 40. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into questions. And like I said, we will experience a few technical issues, but thank you for the grace along the way. So the first question is to both of you. How was learning about Juneteenth? How did that change your life and your view on the legacy?
You want to go first, TJ?
I can. So when we were backstage, we alluded to my aunt Keptola Dunn. And so she lives in Oklahoma. Well, she lived in Oklahoma, and she was a part of Booker T. Washington High School. And the university decided to do an Inspire Award because her, along with my Uncle Edgar and several members of the high school, wanted to honor the principal. And it was a long time coming for them to be able to do it. So if you ever go out to the Oklahoma University, there is a wonderful monument to the the principal as well as the high school, and it has a little bit of information about Black Wall Street. And so my aunt was the spearheading visionary to making sure that accomplished. So when I think about Juneteenth and legacy, I also think about growing up in a multicultural family where both of my grandfathers experienced different things here in this country. And we were always taught that your legacy is not just about what you do, but it's also the courage and the strength and the faith you have to overcome any obstacles. And so when I think about the accomplishments that I've had and the shoulders that I've had to stand on, and when I tell people who I'm related to, they're like, oh my God. And so if it's important to be accomplished, then I think for me, learning about Juneteenth, understanding the struggles that my ancestors had and the things that they did to make sure that I can stand here has been phenomenal. And as a woman in leadership, it often baffles me that I have to sometimes work three times the strength of my male counterparts, but I also understand that the melanin that I bring, if I don't bring it to the table, there is no sunshine. And so I've understood how to take what they taught me, and they always said, hey, we are James, we are our name. And our ancestors always introduced themselves, hey, I am such and such, not what I do, but I'm such and such. So I am that girl who's going to transform your business. I am that girl that's going to transform your life. And I learned that because they understood their freedoms. They understood who they were, because we came from kings and queens, not monkeys and junkies.
All right now.
Yes.
Not monkeys or
And not
junkies.
And
junkies.
All
junkies.
right
Yeah.
now.
Mhm.
And
So that's what I learned.
You know how you
well,
come
I
behind
love
that.
that
You know, maybe I
lesson.
should have took it first. No. um. So in terms of learning about Juneteenth, I guess you have to acknowledge where we came from.
Oh,
Over the
yes.
years, I had a my aunt passed away a few years ago, but I had an aunt who all growing up, she was very, very into civil rights. She ended up becoming an educator to a principal. She was like one of the first Black um, principals and going into superintendents. So understanding where you come from is the most important part. Um, I must say, paying attention and focusing on Juneteenth didn't happen until I was an adult. It wasn't acknowledged or recognized any of my formative years growing up. And at work, we had an event where we were going to celebrate that first year. It was actually a holiday. And it was a lot of research done to circle back and get that knowledge. And from then it was like, well, what will my footprint be? So that's actually kicked off
Mm,
the conversation of how do I leave my footprint here, and how can little Black girls like myself have someone to represent who they are, and to show that you can do something beyond. So I must say, learning about Juneteenth and acknowledging the family and history that I came from ultimately led into my decision to start my own legacy and where would I leave it after I'm gone. I think we don't spend enough time on how do we leave this world a little bit better once
mhm,
we're no longer here.
mhm,
Because it has to be something in this melanin that makes so many people jealous of it, and we have to acknowledge and give back to that form of jealousy that we just have to leave here. It's pureness and greatness in melanin. We are one of the only cultures who can be out in this both sun and not get sick, and it's a recharging factor for us where it's not for others. So allow us to be that ray of sunshine, to Coach TJ's point, and shine forward, because that legacy is so important.
mhm,
That's good, both of you. I mean, that's really good. As I was preparing for this, I had to stop and think. So, as a kid, I lived in Houston, and I can remember going to Galveston and the festivals, and it was like a big thing. But I didn't understand at 5, 6 years old, 7, what really, why it was such a big thing. And it was just a few years ago that I was like, oh my goodness, you know what? My mom and bonus dad were taking me to Galveston to celebrate Juneteenth, right?
Mm. Mhm.
Before it was really a real big thing, or before it had even became a holiday. And I can remember, being in Pittsburgh, my mom and my bonus dad, they had the African American flag in the house, right? So I grew up knowing culture and a sense of pride. And my maternal grandmother definitely was, on us about knowing where we came from, because it was important to know where we came from so that we could know what we could do and where we could go, and as you both have said, that legacy and being that ray of sunshine. So I thank you both for that. So the next question that I want to ask is, how has understanding Juneteenth depended upon your appreciation for freedom and civil liberties? And Lex, I'm going to go ahead and start with you on that one.
Okay, so one thing we notice on this panel is women. Um, since about 19-ish, I think that's that college take your bra off and wave it period of most women's life. um, I learned that as a woman, not only a black woman, but as a woman, our voices are minimized. But if you know a woman steers relationships. Decisions tend to happen because a woman influence occurred.
Mhm.
So it's crazy that so many people take so much emphasis on minimizing the voice that we have when we are the ones who navigate religion. We navigate a lot of decisions on how children are raised. Like our footprint is so important. Additionally, women are the top educators in our school system. So the bulk of what kids see and grow and learn from are women. So why take away our voice? Um, my appreciation to women, the women influences started around 19-ish, and understanding that sadly so many men make the decision to minimize us. So it's very important as a woman, especially African American female, to make sure I'm speaking up on different things that I don't agree with or that
Mhm.
is not positively transitioning us forward. It's no benefit to anyone to keep going back to what we were before. It wasn't like before, it was a perfect world where everything was copacetic and everything was going flowing the way it was. That's why transition and change is so important. So I will continue to be an advocate and a voice for progressing us forward and understanding that as a woman, my choice is my choice, my right is my right, my decision is my decision, and no one should be able to minimize it and take that away from me. So, um, not just learning Juneteenth, but understanding that it is important to speak up for it and to continue the charge forward, especially as a woman.
That's good. That's good. Yes, indeed. Clock it, clock it, clock it. And so, Coach TJ, the same question to you.
Yeah, I'm like her. I don't want to come behind that, but
Come on, y'all.
it's okay. So I think about several different things, but one, we have to not take our freedom for granted. We have to understand that there is an awareness that we have to understand, that it comes back to what I said earlier about who we are. And then speaking from the woman's perspective, I used to wonder why God allowed me to be what I coined the only brown girl in the room, because in my capacities, there's usually not very other women, and there's certainly not anybody with melanin. And so when I think about the understanding, I understand my awareness, I understand my purpose, and I understand that this freedom is given to me. And it is my job to exercise my rights, to be who I'm supposed to be, but also to educate you that we're not going anywhere. We keep multiplying, we keep excelling. And then when you think about the education piece, over the last, I think, 40 or 50 years, as a people, we have started to become the most educated people, the most dominant people. And when you close one door, I think they forget that we've also been extremely innovative. And so, even in this last couple years, with the transition of our leadership, there has been an alt-right attack specifically against African American women in corporate America. And so what we do is we learn to pivot because our ancestors were given little or nothing to be able to survive. And so we grew up understanding that if you just give me pig feet, I'm gonna make them pig feet work. If you give me rice and beans, them gonna be the best rice and beans ever. There's a dish that a lot of people love, shrimp and grits. Shrimp and grits came about because that's all they had in the bayou. And so they gave them the grits, but they had to go get the shrimp. And so I can remember to my grandfather talking about things that they had to put together and they pieced it together. And now those are like things that we want, but we have always been innovative. So I have learned that when the door closes, then from a spiritual side, God will open up a window. So you don't need that door. He'll give you a window. And then sometimes that door closes so that what's birthed in you, and Coach Pam and I were talking about this and she don't know it. But I got an episode coming up. There's a wound and the wound is supposed to birth something. And that's why they call it Mother Africa. So I'm going to yield. Because I can keep going.
Listen.
When I say when God gave me, when God said, okay, this is what I want you to do, and the guests, you two were the first that he gave me. So, and I definitely see the reason why. And so know that because my podcast is faith-based, we are going to always touch and dabble in that. So I always want my guests to feel free to go ahead and express, their beliefs. But keep in mind, I want to go back to what Lex said first. You make mention about women's influence. 1 Peter 3, verses 1 through 6, talks about a woman winning her husband over by her behavior. So that is confirmation to God's word. We as women, we set the tone. Life comes through us. That's the tone, right? And so we help birth out, right? Millionaires, billionaires, kings, queens, doctors, lawyers. So we should never let anyone make us feel small because of the capabilities and the capacities, the way that we were created, right? Was to go ahead and give life. But Coach TJ, you said something that really made me think about legacy, liberties and freedoms, right? So when I think about coming up, most of my friends, they didn't have their grandparents who were college educated, right? Some of my friends, when they spoke about their grandparents, if they came from the South, and my grandmother was from Minden, Louisiana, and she went to Grambling State, right? But some of them that I had, friends that were coming up, had people from Mississippi, right? And so they talked about sharecroppers, right? So I took pride in knowing in the fact that during that time period, my grandmother had the pleasure and the opportunity to be an educator, to have a college education. So it was important for me to know that liberty to be able to go to a college, right? And it didn't necessarily have to be an HBCU, but to know that I could walk into, what we call predominantly white, institutions and get an education and not have to feel as if they were doing me a favor to be there. But that, go ahead.
Nope. I was going to continue off what you were just saying.
But to know that I had earned the right to be there, right? And because my ancestries, listen, when it comes to now going back to what you said again, Coach TJ, about being innovative, I love the pyramids, right? And when you think
Mhm.
about the pyramids, they created the pyramids with no crane.
Mhm.
No, nobody knows even to this day how they did it. And yet, Egypt, last I checked, was in Africa. Now
It is.
they might be the top part,
It is, but it's there.
but
But it's
but
there.
it's in Africa. And so just knowing that, taking all of that, taking the fact that I, learned about my grandfather and his brothers, they were black lumberjacks in Florida, right? And imagine being a black man in the swamps of Florida, cutting down trees, gators and all snakes and all of those things that they were exposed to. But knowing all those things helped me, taught me to appreciate the liberties that, unlike my ancestors, I didn't have to be told what plantation that I was going to be on, but
Mhm.
that I can write my resume in such a way that I could pick and choose where I want to go. So let's go. I just wanted to share that, but let's go ahead. What was you had a
I was
point?
going to say two things. So, to Coach TJ's point, number one, the part where, especially on legacy, because Pam, you were hitting on it, is knowing where you came from. That's the most critical piece, and
Mhm.
nobody realizes, but well, maybe they do. Many of the people alive, grandparents and great grandparents, are still here. They fought for the liberties
Mhm.
60 years ago. That's not that far back to say. We'll go back 65 years. There was no integration. There was your side, my side. And
Mhm.
typically your side was a lot worse than the my side people. So to have these conversations, and people have a blind eye to say, oh, that was the past, it doesn't exist anymore. It definitely exists. Um, my my grandmother's brothers, they owned a lumber company, and they were a all black lumber company, and they typically pushed to sell to other blacks because at the time, during this time period, we weren't getting the supplies we needed to build good homes or
Mhm.
whatever we needed. And then to Pam's point, talking about Egypt, you also have to remember language. Being able to actually read and articulate language also started in Africa. So know that we are the foundation for education, because without us being able to write and have the conversation with others and pass down this information, we still wouldn't be where we are today. I think so many people minimize the influence of the melanated people because it then makes you question, what did you bring to this table?
Mm.
So,
So true. And I'm just going to drop one quick nugget in there. Even us having this ability to be on this platform, the
mhm.
the understanding, the science behind it came from a melanated woman. And I'm just going to leave that like that.
I wish I had a mic over here to drop, but I'm gonna just drop my phone real gently. 'Cause
It was
that's
a
like
melanated woman who wrote the
that is
code and the math to
Mhm.
create your FaceTimes and your Zooms and everything that people are utilizing. But it came from a melanated woman. I'm just gonna
Yes, it
drop
did.
that right there. Mm.
wow. This is good. This is good. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, if you are not tuned in to the Grace Effect, the Juneteenth special edition with Coach Pamela Hankins, let me tell you, you're missing it. This is going to be something that you're going to want to go back and watch the replay. You want to go ahead and share it with friends, because at the end of the day, I mean, there's been some knowledge and nuggets that have been dropped. Like, I would have never known that shrimp and grits came out of, because people wanted to give us scraps, and we had to make that be a meal. Like that right there is just, I'm like, okay.
Oxtails too.
Yep.
Chitterlings, and now you
Yeah.
can't even hardly find them because and they used to be like $1.99 a bucket, and what is they now, like $10.99 a bucket?
Yeah, they're
It's
high.
Yeah.
when you can find them. You know what I mean? Now it is a
It's a
It's a
delicacy.
delicacy.
delicacy. That
Mhm.
delicatessen. So is it. Oxtails used to be $3 a pound. It was the trash.
Mhm.
Now you selling, I think, $16 to $20 a pound for what was
Mhm.
trash to black people.
Right, right.
That
You
was what
know,
they gave the slaves.
indeed, indeed. But let me tell you, that just really tells you about the resiliency of what we come from, because you can give us anything and
And we're
we
gonna
will
make
take
it.
it and make it into something. I mean, they say lemons into lemonade, but we will take whatever you give us
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
we will make it into something. So that just right there, I mean, for anyone who is African American that feels that you can't, know that God's word says that you can,
You
and
can.
your genealogy says it. I mean, it it confirms it, because we are all here standing on the shoulders of those who saw far beyond, you know, what what they could even imagine.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
we're definitely standing here on their shoulders. That is really, really good. It's got me so speechless, because I'm like, oh, it's some things I really want to say, but you gotta be like, keep it, keep it PG-13,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So with that, the next question for both of you is, what generational impact has Juneteenth had on your life? And I think I'm going to go to Lex with this one, because just knowing, you know, the winery, right? Like that in itself says to me that there has to be some generational impact that Juneteenth has had on you.
So, and I touched on, I feel like I keep touching on that footprint you have to leave beyond. Juneteenth, when learning about the different people that pioneered Juneteenth becoming a federal holiday, and just hearing the conversations and the strife and everything they went through, but they still persevered and made it a point. A lot of people didn't realize, and Kamala Harris does not get the credit she needs. And I'm going to circle back to get to my answer of where I got this from. Um, but she, that was one of the things she started as a senator before she became a vice president, and was able to actually put that bug in the ear of, this needs to be a holiday. Like, it needs to be recognized. We only have two African American based holidays. So when I think of those things and I constantly say, okay, how am I going to leave this world a little bit better? My family, sadly, they did own like 30 something acres of land and were tree farmers in South Carolina.
Mhm.
And over time, as others separated and moved on, they sold the land. They didn't have that. So that piece of our history that our grandparents began, my mom, it would be my great great grandparents began, we don't have anymore. And for me, I wanted to create a product or a service that, if my son decided he didn't want to do and he wanted to pursue his own career, could it be self-sustained on its own and keep that name and legacy there? Even into the name of 1117 Sellers, it touches on so many different areas within my life and my legacy, to allow me to leave a piece of my family to go on for the next, hopefully, 50, 60, 70 years. And to know that my kids, grandkids, great grandkids will always have something to come back to. And to say, you know, there wasn't many African Americans, and there still isn't to this day, in that industry, but my grandmother or my great grandmother did this, and she left this for me. Because having something to go back to gives you that pride, that sense
Mhm.
of it shows the resiliency of who you are, who your family were, and what they were willing to do for you, even if you weren't even in existence. So, and that's Juneteenth, learning about Juneteenth and learning the different pieces of what made Juneteenth here and how I was able to learn and acknowledge and just reap the benefits of this holiday is also why I want to push to have something for my future legacies to live from.
That's good. That's good.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. Woo. So when I think about the impact and the influence, I go back to the awareness and how Juneteenth even started. And so we were free and didn't even know that we were free. And it took someone to come and say, "Hey, y'all know slavery ended?" And what? And because of that awareness and that impact for me, growing up, I always was growing up and taught you have to be better than where we land. And I was like, ooh, those are heavy shoes to follow. And you were talking about earlier about going to HBCUs. My father said, I'm not going to pay for a HBCU because he understood in the industry that I come out of, they were disrespected. And so I watched as I even got in management, if I hired two people, both mechanical engineers, one from a HBCU, one from a state university, the state university person was coming in at $10,000 more. So I wanted to go to a HBCU. But my father said, no, the James Foundation ain't paying for that. You're going to go to this wonderful state of Michigan school. And then I went on to Villanova University. But those things, because of his awareness at what he saw, he was able to position me so that I could become the first. And even in my career, I have been the first person of color, the first woman to sit in a lot of the tables that my education and my father's understanding positioned me for success. So because of their sacrifices, because of the awareness, we are able to sit at tables that ordinarily we wouldn't sit at it. Because when you talk about your resume, they read the resume and they're like, oh, I went to Villanova. And then when people see me, they're like, oh, you, oh, okay, when I walk in the room, but I'm able to walk in the room and command the room. And so the innovation and the impact, if we're not there, let us become there. When we think about even sports and entertainment, we're in sports arenas that we never was a part of. It's like, oh, okay, we gonna get into this too. And whenever we get there, we just need one to get there. And once the first one gets there, then we got to open up the door for the next one. So the impact that I believe is because my family said, be greater and be better than where we are. And if I got aunts who are getting white organizational schools, creating historical references to a principal of a school that y'all put a freeway through, I got to do better. I got to make sure I get books out. I got to do better getting the word out to tell everybody, utilize what's in you because what's in you is powerful than what they're trying to hide.
Yep.
That's good. That's so good. You know what? You had me sitting over here thinking about my life, right? So when I graduated from my grandmother, always, maternal grandmother, always asked us, what do you want to be when you grow up? So
Mm-hmm.
I knew from the time I was maybe 10 years old that I wanted a career in IT. And so I didn't know exactly what the terminology was, but I was like, I'm going to get my PhD in computer science and technology. And so, because of the stories that my grandmother told about Grambling and how she went to Grambling, and I believe his name is Eddie Johnson, who was the well known coach, was like a freshman when she was a senior, and just hearing those stories, I'm like, okay, I'm going to Grambling. But a family friend got hurt at a state college that was 2 hours away. And it was, I can remember hearing some of the commotion about them, who's going
Mhm.
to go getting. So that made me decide that this little melanated young lady was not going to leave Pennsylvania and go away to school to Grambling. And so I then went to Penn State. Now, although I did not graduate from Penn State, I'm sitting and I'm listening to your story. The university that I did go to was called the Robert Morris University. Now, there is a Robert Morris University. And I'm just sitting here like smiling because I'm like, okay, when you look at my resume, depending on who's looking at it, it could resonate in one or two ways. It could resonate with you because maybe you're aware of the Robert Morris University and knowing
Mhm.
that they have really been going to NCAA, or it could resonate with you because if you don't know the difference between the Robert Morris University and Robert Morris University, which is a HBCU, right? So just thinking about that, it's like, wow, you know, you don't think people are judging you based upon, you know, where you've obtained your
Mhm.
education, right? Because it really should be, the proof should be in the pudding. The proof should be when you hire me. Am I going to give you, am I working with this towards the spirit of excellence? When you get my references, are they telling you, oh, she's this? When you look at my resume, is it telling you that I'm a thought thinker, that I'm a critical thinker? You know, am I, do I connect the dots? You know, do you see a lot
Mhm.
of different things versus based upon judging me because of where I've gone to school at? So, you know, that is like really, you know, a great point to bring up on the impact on how Juneteenth has had, you know, in your life. And even generationally, I think about my grandchildren, right? And my oldest granddaughter just finished her first year of college. And so I'm like, listen, you know, do this way, do that this way. You know, you have the opportunity to do it this way. She just has been fortunate enough to get a job with the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, which is now going
Mhm.
to afford her the opportunity that if she wanted to, she can go to Pitt or she can go ahead and get some funding, as you know, through the employee program, to be able to go to any of the colleges, whether it's community colleges or not within the city. So I'm like, work that thing, make that thing work for you, stay with them, get your master's, you know, take advantage of the tuition reimbursement and all that the University of Pittsburgh name has to offer. Because when people
Mhm.
see that on your resume, they're going to be like, oh, she went to Pitt. They might not really think about whether the program that she enrolled in is really good. They're just going to think she went to
You went to
Pitt.
Pitt.
And that was
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
And that's all. So that's, you know, really, really, really good. So I have this one question that I want to ask. But before I ask this question, I do want to go ahead and pay some more bills with another commercial. Dear Grace Q, you don't have to be a wife to take advantage of this bundle. It's for any woman who wants to release the divine in you. Ladies and gentlemen, you can go ahead and purchase that bundle at www.phankins.com. And I will also provide a special link for you to go ahead and take advantage of each one of those, the Chronicles of the Praying Wife book, workbook, and journal, which you can purchase on Amazon. So here is my question that I wanted to ask. Have you noticed during, because we have Juneteenth, right? That there may be some grace that we may have to give to others, because when it comes to celebrating Juneteenth, because they already say, well, we have MLK Day. And now here we already have, some of them will even ask, and I won't say them, but some people will ask, well, you know, you already celebrate MLK Day. You already have Kwanzaa. Now, what's the difference between you celebrating Juneteenth? Have you've been approached with those questions? If you have, how do you address that? And what grace do you give?
So I guess I'm gonna jump in because she's gonna be like, okay. So being in the world that I function in, I am always challenged with all of the celebrations because, like I told you before, there's usually nobody that looks like me in the building. And so I give them the grace because God extends us grace every time we mess up. And so I channel the discussion that there's never too much celebration of where I come from. And just like you have celebration on celebrations, and you get with other ethnicities that are not yours. For instance, if they're Italian, they're going to celebrate the Irish Day. You're not Irish, so why are you celebrating the Irish? And so I make it a little comical and I say, hey, it's about celebrating the legacy and the historical references as a people. And so if you can have something every month, every day, this day, that day, we celebrate days that really were massacres, but we make them into this big thing. And I think that sometimes there's the opposition for it because they can't capitalize on the stuff to sell. So you think about it. Valentine's Day, that wasn't about no love. That was a massacre. But that's one of the greatest grossing revenue holidays there is.
Yep.
And so when you think about Juneteenth and the impact and legacy, a lot of it comes back to the money. I can't capitalize on this, so I'm going to sprue venom on it, or I'm going to try to shut this down because I can't make millions off of it because I can't put my face on this. And society makes us look at beauty as non-melanating it, but you're always going to the tanning salon.
Ooh.
And I think my co-host here said something about this, that there's a jealousy. And so you want to be me. You want your hair to be big and puffy and curly. And we sit here and be like, oh my God. So learning to embrace my differences, learning to understand that I don't have to put on 10 shades of makeup to get the look you're trying to get. I could just walk out the door because it's natural. And I had somebody one time be like, what do you do to get that shape? It's cornbread and biscuits. Okay. That's what it is. It's cornbread and biscuits.
Some good ones with honey butter.
Some good
Not
ones.
the cornbread fed. Not the cornbread fed.
Not the cornbread. So when you're in that situation, we give them grace, but we have to learn how to turn grace as a choice. And I have to not, as the commercial said in the back of the day, not let you see me sweat. So I'm going to flip that script back on you because I understand who I am. I've got the knowledge, I've got the wisdom, and I got the legacy of my ancestor to say, you don't have to perform and act no fool. Just say, okay, well, why are you celebrating the Irish when you Italian?
Yeah.
That's good.
Mayo,
That's good.
and you ain't
Cinco de
even
Mayo. You out there having that margarita.
but you have the margarita because they can capitalize on that.
Mm.
And so that's what I've had to face with that.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's so good. That's so good. Okay, come on, Lex. I'm ready for you. Come on. Because I know you get ready to bring it. I'm ready.
Because
here, let me get here.
Grace has two things. First, I feel like imitation is the best form of flattery. Okay, duplicate me. If I am giving you the blueprint, follow it.
Mm-hmm.
Just put my name on it though. Like know where it came from. And I feel African for the grace piece. Remember that who we are, we're embedded in every single piece of American history. So to acknowledge Juneteenth, I feel there are individuals who also have to acknowledge slavery and Jim Crow. Because everybody has this concept that slavery, when slavery stopped, racism never existed. It existed. I mean, you wouldn't have had 100 years of Jim Crow just because slavery stopped. Remember, it wasn't until 1960s that African Americans can vote, African Americans can buy homes. Then you had
Uh-huh.
redlining. There has always been a decision, a cognitive decision to minimize one group of people or anyone that just wasn't that one group. So, to the grace, as an African American, you're always born to give that grace. There's always a justification. We teach our boys how to deal with cops at 10, 11, 12 years old because we know there's going to be an encounter for them at an earlier age than it will be for others. So we are embedded in grace. Grace is given from the time you raise your voice. Ooh, don't talk too loud because others may get intimidated, or
Mm.
watch your tone. So for me, who is in, I've been in a lot of the rooms, and Pam knows, where I have turned my camera off because my face does not coincide with the words that I'm required to say to be able to still continue the activity. Because you have to make sure you can fight for that privilege and you can fight for that example and opportunity, but you have to use the right words to get you where you need to be. That's that other form of grace. Um, in the industry that I work in, I am the only African American female right now. And going up, there's minimal females, let alone African American.
Mm-hmm.
So I always feel it's very important to not only teach grace, but teach forward and progressive conversations. Because I can give you the grace, but we still need to move this forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and recently, because there's been decisions made to minimize having social organizations within our company, um, it's how do we not get lost in translation when it becomes time for the corporate conglomerate to take over? How do we still continue to have the voice for the subsegments of culture? Like, you need to have Black and African Americans, you need to have Hispanic Americans. That is how you continue to educate others on Juneteenth, on the truth about Cinco de Mayo, because it was not a margarita based and taco moment.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Valentine's Day, case in point, that was a massacre. 4th of July, let's be honest, it really isn't a very positive holiday to celebrate. Yes, it was an independence, but for who? Even with the conversation of Juneteenth, because there are debates on Juneteenth being the Galveston peace, or do you acknowledge December 18th, when Ulysses Grant signed that there's no slavery at all, which was
Mm.
6 months later? I get it. Okay, you want to minimize opportunities. I don't have a problem as long as you're explaining history in the way it occurred with all the
Mm.
pieces to it. That's where, to me, the grace comes, is I can give you, because I've been having this conversation very often of, well, why are we celebrating all these different things, and why are we pouring all this money into different things when it's not occurring on such and such date, or it's not occurring in this way, and nobody's getting anything from it? It's a lie. Why can I celebrate my heritage the same way you celebrate yours? um it's nothing wrong with celebrating. It's nothing wrong with having these conversations. And sadly, we're going to continue to have to give grace to so many others in order to progress us forward.
And that, I mean, you guys have both put that so eloquently. I can remember coming up in Pittsburgh. And so, if you know anything about Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa started at the University of Pittsburgh by a professor who was an African American studies professor. And before it became widely popular, it was something that was just, you know, people did in Pittsburgh. And then one day you knew it because Pitt would have these different celebrations around Christmas. And then, of course, they allowed him to go ahead because he was the professor of African American Studies. And then it just took off. And likewise, you know, you have, like you said, different holidays. But when you think about the basis of the majority of the holidays that we celebrate, I mean, there really isn't any pleasantry to them.
Mm-mm.
There's no pleasantry about 4th of July. Yes, you got independence, but what about all the lives that were lost? And the lives that we do know, keep in mind, there were some slaves that was there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those unsung heroes will never be talked about. You know, what about when you talked about Valentine's Day? Listen, Valentine's Day, if you take it, it goes far beyond a massacre. When you look at Valentine's Day and you research it, it was a day back in the days of ancient Rome and Greece where you took and said that someone would be your sex slave.
Mm-hmm.
That was, and so they were your sex slave for you to do whatever you chose to do
Mm-hmm.
with them for a whole year. And so when they said, "Would you be my Valentine?" That wasn't a willing thing, like, "Oh yeah, I'm happy. Where's the chocolate cake?" Because where did Cupid come in and all of that? You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about, like, I mean, St. Patrick's Day, I love it dearly, but people vomiting up green beer. Where did the Lucky Charm come from? You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, like, seriously, you know, the little leprechaun, where did he come from? It has nothing to do with, I mean, maybe it might be an old Irish wise tale. I don't know. But at the end of the day, like, there's all these different holidays that are celebrated. And, you know, sometimes we do get flack for Juneteenth, especially now because it's a national holiday where I'm sure some people who celebrate St. Patrick's Day wish it was a national holiday so they wouldn't have to deal with the hangover the next day because they
Mm-hmm.
would be able to get a personal day, you know, because it would be a national holiday. But at the end of the day, the grace really is that we have to give it even when it's not earned,
Mm-hmm.
when
Mm-hmm.
it's not deserved, when the things that they say to us come out of a place of ignorance, right? Because can you imagine being free and not knowing that you're free? Can
Mm-hmm.
you imagine even when you were knowing that some of them were told they were free and they still didn't move?
Didn't believe it.
Didn't even want to believe it, had to wait 6 months later to feel safe to say, I can go ahead and now I can move because I know it's for real. Can you imagine what that would be like to be free and you can't, like, listen, I know why Ayana Van Zant said, I mean, not Ayana Van Zant, but Maya Angelou said, I know why the cage bird sings,
First.
because when you have been taken against your will, told to do something that you don't want to do, treated less than, you weren't even considered to be human, you were considered to be property.
Mm-hmm.
Your kids, they were property. They could take your kids. I mean, they bred us like they did animals. We're gonna take this big buck and put him with that. They talk to us like and refer to us like animals because they call deers bucks, the male.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So at the end of the day, the grace has to be given because at the end of the day, our most gracious Heavenly Father gives us grace every day. And if we can't extend grace to other races and to other people, how can we expect God to give us grace? And that is truly what the effect of grace
Mm-hmm.
is when it comes to Juneteenth. What is the effect of grace is with this climate in which we live in, and so it is imperative that we continue to educate one another. It is imperative that we do this. It says, dear ancestors, I understood the assignment because listen, we are here on answered prayers. So I'm going to give grace because I thank my ancestors who were beaten, raped, who didn't think they had any hope, that they realized that their hope would lie in me. I thank them, for that, because had they not saw forward, where would I be? Where would you be?
Yep.
And so with that, like, I'm so glad that we've had this opportunity to talk about Juneteenth and the relationship between freedom and legacy. And so I want to go ahead before we go, and I want to start with you, Coach TJ. Can you let the people know a little bit more about you and where they can find you at?
Yes, so you can find me on just about all the social media platforms and podcast platforms under the Wholeness Without Hustle handle, and then Coach Theresa. So you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. My current website it's the whole you, but I am transforming to wholeness without hustle. So my entire thing is wholeness without hustle. So you'll find me there under that handle. And
All
then
right.
if you need to reach me, just Coach TJ at itsthewholeyou.com.
Thank you. And what about you, Lex? Where can the people find you?
If you want Pam's shirt, that's also on the website. And thank you, Pam, for representing my brand.
Oh,
But I am, if you're looking for shirts and stuff, they are available on Etsy. Just click the link. I also started publishing them on Facebook as well. I'm on social media at Alexis Peppers. If you're ever looking for me or want to hold a conversation, my door is always open. Um, and pretty soon I will start publish the website for 1117 Sellers. I did decide to create a vlog to take all these moments and the things I've been learning so far, and hopefully we'll have more little African American vineyards around North Carolina. um, that will be my goal. Yes, is to help educate others into this journey. I mean, it is a multi-billion-dollar industry, so
Mm-hmm.
we might as well give us a little piece of that nugget. And I'm here.
well, thank you. And I will say, Lex does great work. She manages all my promotional materials. So when you go on my website and you order the Divine Transformation t-shirt or the Chronicles of a Praying Wife t-shirt, all of that has been all done by Lex, and she does great work. So with that, ladies, I just want to say thank you, and um, don't forget about the freedom and the legacy of Juneteenth. Listen, dear Grace Carriers, I know this episode was powerful and impactful. It felt more like having a conversation with some good girlfriends, but yet it was very educational. It was very informative. And so, with that, I just want to thank you for always taking the time to meet me here, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's Spotify, on CTR Media, on the Roku channel, wherever streaming platforms you may go. I want to thank you for taking the time, and I want to invite you to meet me back for the next episode of the Grace Effect with Coach Pamela Hankins. Well, we will discuss the relationship between being a caregiver and having to deal with someone that's your family member. And so, with that, you all be blessed and enjoy the rest of your Juneteenth.